Welcome back to another episode of Offbeat Adventures. We're standing here once again on the grade of the former Grand Trunk Pacific Railway and later Canadian National Railways Graham Subdivision. We are kind of in the middle of nowhere. We are just beside Percy's Bay here on Mattawa Lake or Mattawa Lake, which is formed by the English River, just to the southeast of a place called Silver Dollar, Ontario. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be picking up where we left off on a previous hike that we finished last fall. So we were here on Thanksgiving weekend last fall, and so we had stopped here right at the site of this old flag stop here. And so what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be working our way almost 8 miles. So about, my watch says, about 13 kilometers to the west. And there's a whole bunch of things that we're going to be taking a look at. It's a beautiful day. Unfortunately, very, very sunny. It's supposed to rain later tonight. It's supposed to cloud over. I was hoping that it was going to be cloudier, but obviously no such luck. So I'm going to walk for the first little bit because there's lots of things to talk about before we get rolling. Lots of points of interest on this section here. So we were originally supposed to do this last fall, but we kind of ran out of time. So I was going to come up here for the day, and then at some point I decided, you know what, there's a lot to do here. There's a lot to take a look at. Maybe what I'll do is I'll do it over a couple of days. So last fall when I was here, I stayed at the Silver Dollar Inn, the resort just up here, and so thanks to the folks there for their hospitality. And so I planned this out on the long weekend here in May, and I'm going to show you this just in case you don't believe me. I don't know if you can see that properly, but it is the 17th of May. Because you're going to see some snow on the ground, but there's some other stuff that we're going to mention. So again, the plan was to come up here in the morning on the one day, and then do a lot of the leg work for the hike, and then the next day do this part. So had this all planned out, had the, waited. The big sort of concern was I going to be able to get a room up here at the last minute, because I had to wait for I wanted the weather to be good. I needed, particularly yesterday, I needed cloud because I wanted to make sure I could record everything and it wouldn't be all kind of washed out like you see a little bit today. It's not too bad. The sun is very, very high in the sky. What time is it? It's almost 11 o'clock Eastern, almost 10 o'clock Central. So we're way ahead of schedule. Usually, sometimes we're very, very slow. But basically because we did all the leg work, and this section is a little bit shorter, it wasn't as bad. Lindy's in the trailer here. She's had a good couple of days. So anyway, we had quite the adventure. And the reason why was because, so today is a Sunday. So Friday night before I went to bed, I noticed on social media that at first I noticed there was something going on the highway. So what has to happen is you have to get off the main Trans-Canada Highway, Highway 17 at Ignace, and then come up here. It's about 60 kilometers north of Ignace. And I noticed something was going on. There was a caution on Ontario 511, which basically shows you all the information about the highways and stuff. And then all of a sudden the road's closed, and I'm like, what? So there's a forest fire that broke out. It's been crazy. It's been a very cool spring. It hasn't been particularly warm. There was I think like Thursday, Friday was around here was up to like 20 degrees or so. At home Friday was ridiculous. Let's see if I can grab the picture here. I made sure I took a picture of it because I'm like, nobody's going to believe me. It was 27 degrees. It was just like, I was dying. I was walking, Luna and I went for a walk. I was dying because it was so warm. In any case, so it's been a very, very weird spring. It's been cool, but it's been very windy. And so even though all the snow hasn't gone away, and you're going to see some of that, you're going to see blotches of snow here and there. And it took a long time for the snow to go away. There's lots of water, as you're going to see. There's forest fires breaking out, so the highway was closed. So yesterday morning, I was like, what do I do, right? I didn't sleep very well Friday night, right? Because it was just like, you know, the whole hike going to get ruined. I'm going to have to like postpone what I'm going to have to do. So I got up earlier than I thought I was going to, and I said, well, I'll go out there, and even if I have to wait for the highway to open, or, you know, or maybe I'm going to have to come all the way back home. And so it turns out I stopped just before Ignace, and I looked, and the highway was still closed, and I'm like, oh. My phone rings, and it's it's Andrew from the Silver Dollar, and he's like, you know, if you want to get here, you're basically going to have to go the long way. So the other way to get to Silver Dollar is basically you have to drive further up the highway, closer to Dryden, near Wabigoon, and then basically come up Highway 72, which is the main highway to get to Sioux Lookout. So I had to drive all the way there, drive up 72 into Sioux Lookout. Never been to Sioux Lookout before, but that's kind of the terminus of this series in any case. And then I had to come down Highway 642, which is the highway that goes from Sioux Lookout to Silver Dollar, which again was good because I'm going to be hiking that area this fall. So I was able to see a few little things. That highway's a little crazy. Lots of twists and turns and things like that. And so anyway, so I was able to come down here. So it took it's an extra 2 hours. So it adds 2 hours to the hike. As to the drive. So instead of being just over almost 3.5 hours, it was 5.5 hours to get to the grade here. And then I did all the stuff that I need to do yesterday. Thankfully it was cloudy, got all that leg work done, got to the resort and was just exhausted because I hadn't really slept the night before, and then did a lot of stuff. It took me about 5 hours yesterday to do everything I needed to do. Again, it's very dusty, it's very dry. You're gonna hear some squeaks. My bike is very squeaky. I was a dummy. I didn't bring the, I was like, do I need to bring oil with me, right? And yesterday driving on the road, my bike just got coated in dust. I tried to clean it up the best that I could, but there's some squeaks that are happening. Okay. So let's start our history lesson here. So this line was constructed by Grand Trunk Pacific Railway between 1905 and 1908. It was going to be part of an attempt by the Grand Trunk Company, which was one of the oldest railway companies in Canada, getting its start back in 1852, to construct another transcontinental railway across the country. So basically, the Grand Trunk Company operated mostly in sort of eastern Canada, but there was a desire to expand. Now the problem was Grand Trunk didn't want to kind of, you know, they didn't want to venture into the transcontinental business because they had seen what had happened to Canadian Pacific. Here you can see some of the snow. That squeak is terrible. I think it's worse now that the dog's in the bike trailer. And so they didn't want to go it alone. They didn't want to do all of this stuff. So and the Canadian government was anxious to get another transcontinental line built. So there was a lot of negotiation. There was a lot of back and forth between the company and the Canadian government about funding and subsidies and things like that. We're going to pause our story here because last fall when I was here, I recorded this rock cut because it'll be easier to see. So I will splice that footage in. All right, we are go through this next rock cut here, or the first one actually, on this section. So you can see the age of the cut. You can see all the moss that's growing up on the rocks. It's mostly here on the west side. Again, you can see the layered nature of the rock. You can see how it's all shale-like, it's all fractured, and again, that would have been a result of the blasting process. telegraph pole. Dominion 42 is welded on there. If you want one with a big piece of wire attached to it. So maybe 10 feet here. Again, looks very pretty with all of the moss and everything growing on it. So here it starts to peter out, and so we will continue on. The bridge over Eva Lake is just up ahead. All right, so basically the agreement that was devised was that Grand Trunk would build the eastern portion of the transcontinental line, everything from Winnipeg to Prince Rupert on the Pacific, under the name Grand Trunk Pacific. And then the Canadian government would build the eastern portion, everything from Winnipeg to New Brunswick, under the name National Transcontinental. Now, this line was a bit of an anomaly because it attached to the NTR, attached to the National Transcontinental, but basically it was a Grand Trunk Pacific line. So here you can see another little bay here of Mattawa Lake. And so, and again, the whole purpose of building this line was basically to give the line, which ran far to the north, access to Lake Superior. So, again, construction lasted on this branch line between 1905 and 1908. Now, problem popped up when the whole line was completed. And what was again supposed to happen was that Grand Trunk was supposed to run their portion and then operate the eastern portion, the government portion as well. But because of all kinds of issues, mostly financial, the Grand Trunk company backed out of the agreement. So essentially now the Canadian government had this railway line that had nobody to operate it. So what they did was basically they created their own railway company to operate the line called the Canadian Government Railways. And so now again, this line was a Grand Trunk line, but because it connected to the NTR, I'm going to hop off here. Because it connected to the NTR, the Canadian government, that squeak is driving me crazy. The Canadian Government Railways leased this line from Grand Trunk Pacific. And so originally the name of the line had been the Grand Trunk Pacific Lake Superior Subdivision. And then it became the, sorry. So again, the line had been the Lake Superior Division of Grand Trunk Pacific. It became the Fort William and Raith subdivisions of Canadian Government Railways. And that arrangement lasted until late 1918, when the Canadian National Railways was created, basically by merging Canadian Government Railways and Canadian Northern Railway. So in 1919, early 1919, the name of this line changed again. It became the Fort William and Raith subdivisions of Canadian National Railways. And then later that year, the name changed again. It became the Lake Superior subdivision of Canadian National. And then in 1922, the name changed yet again. It became the Graham subdivision, which most people know it as. Now, around that time, basically the company began sort of looking at its situation, and what it ended up doing was consolidating its lines in the area, and that resulted in the abandonment of the eastern part, the eastern 28 miles of this line. Now, in preparation for that, the line was split into two subdivisions, the Crest and the Graham. That was in 1924. And then in 1925, the Crest subdivision was abandoned, and the Graham subdivision was renamed and split into two again. So it was split into the Raith and the Quorn subdivisions. And that continued until 1931 when they were put back into the Graham subdivision. And then the line continued to operate until 1994 when it was abandoned by CN. Shortly thereafter, the rails were pulled up. Okay, so we've arrived at our first major feature. You can see the sign bridge ahead, and if you can kind of notice, there is a bridge up ahead on the camera. So I'm going to pause here and we're going to continue on and work our way across the bridge.